DC Studios' Superman released last month, officially starting the rebooted DC Cinematic Universe. And to most audiences, it was a great first impression. So great, it's already made over 500 million globally. This is the first DC film to do so since The Batman in 2022. This, among other achievements, is a major improvement for Man of Steel. Not just in box office numbers, but in audience reception. Fans have praised its lighter and more hopeful tone. Despite Lex Luthor opening a pocket universe that opened a black hole and almost tore Metropolis in half, the movie keeps the plot grounded. There's no overwhelming multiverse events or a story too big you couldn't keep up with. And it's a well-paced story. Even with more than one threat, it still keeps clear focus. Compared to Zack Snyder's 2013 Man of Steel, which only had one villain but still managed to feel all over the place. But overall, the 2025 Superman film is a success. It sets a solid foundation for DC's new universe, proving that sometimes less is more. But more isn't always bad. Marvel proved this with Fantastic Four First Steps.
I can explain this.
This film was the start of a new phase in the Marvel Universe, and it's probably the most positively received Marvel movie since Endgame. First Steps is a strong reintroduction to the team and Marvel. Yay! The promotion for the movie by itself sparked interest across the Marvel fanbase. And in 2 weeks, the movie has already made over $368 million at the box office, which at first glance may seem low. But if you look at Marvel's recent box office history, this isn't so bad. Box office aside, the film has a focused plot, and for the first time in a long while, it seems like the writers actually cared about what's being poured into the film. Even with the big villain like Galactus, the film manages to deliver a quality fight, without nerfing Galactus or the team. Each element of the movie actually feels important and watchable. That being said, Marvel was able to give their fans a quality film that will pay off in the future, especially as we get closer to Spider-Man Brand New Day and Avengers Doomsday. So with these films being received so well by both audiences, you'd assume I'm going to pick them apart piece by piece and compare them. But you can go see that argument unfold on Twitter. I'm instead going to talk about the quality of each film because after watching them, they're both actually perfect.
Get your spectral sock out, nerds. It's gonna get good.
One thing Superman and First Steps gets right is the world building. And I'm not talking about Easter eggs or cameos, I mean the way the world around these characters actually feels real. In Superman, we skip over the origin. Not completely, but Clark didn't just become Superman 5 minutes ago. We know this not just because the movie makes it clear he's been Superman for 3 years, but also in the film we can actively see him holding back, meaning he knows how to control his powers. But about his environment and the world around him, the film doesn't waste any time trying to reintroduce every corner of Metropolis. Instead, it drops us into a city that's already bright and alive, just like the comics. The Daily Planet doesn't feel like a movie set, it feels like a newsroom with its own pace and its own presence. Jimmy and Lois aren't just Clark's co-workers, they're actual important parts of the story. Lois and Mr. Terrific were both big parts of the reason Superman wasn't forever trapped in Lex's pocket universe. And Jimmy just overall adds momentum to the story. He keeps the superhero chaos leveled with a human point of view, and it works. So you can feel the tension in this world after Lex's expanding pocket universe. But you also feel the love people have towards Superman. This is a historical event in the DCU that won't go unnoticed 2 movies from now.
Where's the dog?
An event that may be less historical in the future, because I'm sure their world will be destroyed sometime when Galactus returns. Fantastic Four First Steps sets itself apart with bold designs and well plot placement. The film takes place on Earth 828, a retro-futuristic 1960s world that lives like a Jack Kirby comic come to life. The team has been the Fantastic Four for as long as 4 years. Compared to the past films, where they struggle to use and learn their abilities, in First Steps they all have an understanding of their powers, and how to use them to their benefit in powerful ways. For once, it doesn't feel like Reed was the only one with an understanding of their new life. But I won't focus too much on the past films. If you want to hear me compare and complain about the past Fantastic Four movies, I have a video on that. But moving on. We, as an audience, meet them already established. They have family dinners, and Reed and Sue are expecting a child. Although we're still in cosmic ground, this plot pulls us from those themes, far from street level but no multiverse conflict yet. The arrival of the Silver Surfer on this less chaotic Earth to warn them about Galactus' existence and arrival sets the story in motion. And when Galactus finally arrives, he's a big threat, but they handle it. And Reed even attempts teleportation. This plan does fail. So watching it, you panic, but not so much because we've already lived in this world long enough to believe they can handle it. although this is just their first film. I'm not gonna lie though, for a minute I definitely thought their world was going to be destroyed. What's refreshing is that neither of these movies stop to explain everything. They don't throw a flashback for context or a narrator voiceover. They just let the world exist and let you catch up. It makes everything feel more well-paced, even when a cosmic god or dimensional rifting technology becomes a problem. A lot of modern superhero films get caught trying to do too much, setting up spin-offs, sequels, shows, and multiverse tie-ins, until the actual movie you came to see just feels like another trailer. But Fantastic Four First Steps manages to avoid this, which is surprising because I'm actually talking about Marvel's movies feeling like trailers sometimes.
I can explain this.
There's still clear setups, like Galactus isn't going to be gone forever obviously. His return is just being delayed for later situations. Marvel doesn't even have to make this point for their audience to know that the Fantastic Four will be coming to the 616 universe, or the 616 universe will be coming to the Fantastic Four. There's even a mid-credits tease that leads directly to Avengers Doomsday, but none of this overshadows the main story. The film never loses sight on the Fantastic Four themselves, their relationships, their growth, and their mission. And you see the same idea in Superman. The Pocket Universe plot could have easily turned into a Justice League tease or a multiverse conflict, but it didn't. Instead of chasing the wow factor, the story stayed grounded and pretty street level, but the stakes were still high. Lex literally opened a black hole in space-time. But the emotional focus never drifted from Clark, Lex, and the story of what kind of hero Superman chooses to be. It's a story about restraint and morality. And the best part about this approach is, it doesn't feel like it's holding back. The story feels intentional. By resisting the urge to go bigger just for the sake of it, the movie actually lands harder, and it earns its emotional weight. That's the kind of patience and focus both DC and Marvel have been missing for a while. And if this is the direction DC will continue going in, they'll have more success moments like Superman. Something else I noticed that Superman and the Fantastic Four First Steps have in common is they know when to stop adding people. Both films keep their core assemblies tight, and that focus pays off. Instead of throwing in or building needless subplots, they concentrate on making each character matter. In Superman, everything orbits Clark, Lex, and Lois, but it never zooms in too closely on any one story. Clark isn't just a symbol, he's a man with a moral cost of power. This is presented in his personal, quieter scenes, his moments where he questions himself. Lex Luthor isn't trying to take over the world just because it's Tuesday. He's calculated and constantly challenging, so he has a reason for taking over the world, his hatred for Superman. And for the first time since Margaret Kidder, Lois isn't just a love interest either. She's a reporter, and even though her and Clark are in a relationship, when she has to do her job, she does it. She vividly challenges Clark's choices without romanticizing him. The dynamic works because it's built on who they are as characters, not because it's fan service. In First Steps, it's a very similar situation. The script doesn't waste time introducing 14 side characters who won't matter by the end of the story. Even the characters who were introduced in the beginning of the film who I thought would be pointless played a big part in helping the plot. The team is the main focus. Reed, Sue, Johnny, and Ben all get room to breathe. Reed feels like a real overwhelmed genius trying to figure out how to save the planet, and in this, even fails to teleport the Earth. Sue is a smart character. She's observant and layered, with actual integrity. Going in this direction with the character makes her feel like an honorable part of the team. Johnny is still Johnny, but he's not an idiot. He helps the story progress. And Ben is the emotional anchor who actually takes part in keeping the team strong. The way they clash and evolve feels right for the story. Both films have a very rare quality to them. They let the characters control the film, not the other way around. And because of that, the movie hits harder. The losses feel real and the growth feels like something you earned while watching. It's a very thoughtful way to include the audience into the conflict. What both of these films understand is that you don't need to spell everything out. Superman and the Fantastic Four First Steps both trust their audience's intelligence. They don't need an endless trail of Easter eggs or multiverse teases to keep us engaged. They assume we're smart enough to follow the emotions of the plot and to sit in the silence. The final scenes of both movies reflect this trust. In Superman, we're not given a dramatic villain monologue or a city-leveling finale. We're given Clark. After almost dying many times, the film gives him space to breathe without setting up the next event. And in First Steps, the final moments aren't about setting up Galactus' return or launching a spin-off, although we did get an important mid-credit scene at the end of the movie. When the dust settled, they're just four people, changed by what they've seen, leaving the audience to question where to go next. No spoon feeding, no hand holding. These are films that invite you to think, to feel, and to grow with the characters. That's a rare kind of storytelling today, and that's why these quieter, more focused entries hit harder than most of the bigger, louder blockbusters. Overall, both films prove that you don't need to go bigger to go deeper. Just trust the story, trust the characters, and trust the audience to follow you there. If you made it this far in the video, you either agree with what I'm saying or you're preparing to write a hate comment. Either way, go ahead, like and subscribe, so I can keep pointing out Marvel and DC's mistakes, or so you can keep commenting about how much you disagree. Until then, have a wonderful day.